All right, welcome back. 30 years ago, Kenny Robinson started a showcase called The Nubian Show, hosting everyone from Dave Chappell to Russell Peters and launching careers of Canadian comedy stars that we know and love. Take a look.
Remember the first show?
I had the matching hat, the shirt. It was big and baggy, had a front pouch like a marsupial.
I had that African dashiki baseball shirt on the first show.
There's no show that can give you that high, the Nubian Show high.
Audience, no vibe, no lineup.
It's a show that allows a space for an eclectic group of people, and that's like the most black thing you'll ever get in your life.
Well, that is a clip from a new documentary called People of Comedy, celebrating 30 years of the Nubian Show. And here to tell us all about it is Kenny Robinson himself. Welcome.
It's so good to have you here. I've been to many of your Nubian shows, so it's an honor to sit down with you. So let's start and let's rewind the clock and go 30 years ago. What made you even have this idea to have the Nubian Show? Where did that even start?
It didn't start that way. You know, like when it started, there were only maybe like 7 or 8 comics of color in the entire country. Oh. There was myself, Ronnie Edwards, Gene Clark, who's an actor / comic, Evan Carter, who was like one of the first comics in the country, black or white, Greg Morton, who's, you know, an incredible actor. So there weren't many of us. And then, and there were fewer black people in the audience. If there were ever 4 black people in the audience, they were usually Ronnie Edwards' relatives. So, you know, so weren't a lot of us. And, I was stopping in at the club after acting classes, and I was hearing that I was told, well, you ought to see some of these black comics come up. They set your race back 20 years. And I go, what? And I go, that's what they say when I get drunk. You know, who's stealing my job? You know, so, and then a good friend of mine, Ita Sidhu, she told me one time, she said, well, you got to do something with this Mr. Mo. That was the guy that I heard set the race back. And I go, what do you mean? Well, you got to do something with him. So I saw him, and I'm thinking, well, he doesn't set the race back 20 years. He just doesn't know how to write a tagline. So I'm seeing more of these young comics, and I had done a couple of shows. Mark Breslin brought up Paul Mooney, and I had the privilege of working with him for a week. And then I had done a show with Ronnie Edwards, myself, and another comic from Buffalo, and 4 or 5 hip-hop acts at the Opera House, and was the first time having a predominantly black audience. So I was doing material about racial profiling, and I was doing stuff about the LA riots. And when I was working the traditional Caucasian rooms, we don't want to be preached to. We don't want to hear that garbage, you know. Whereas, you know, when I went out with a black crowd, and I said they pulled somebody over because the suspects had Jamaican accents. Well, how could they read an accent from a car? And everybody saw the humor in that, you know. So
can we, Kenny, fast forward a little bit, because we want to go to that very first show, because it was a sellout. Not just a sellout, 125 people were turned away from the door, minimum, and it started to attract some huge names. So what are some of the other names that started to come through the club?
Okay, well, our first big name was Tommy Davidson. He was up here doing Booty Call, the movie. Not the Booty Call, but the movie.
And he was on
Living Color.
Living Color.
Yeah, that's a long way to go for a booty call up in Toronto, isn't it? So, those Canadian girls. So he came in and he did his set, and then he came back the following month, and he brought Will Smith, Vivica Fox, and Jada Pinkett with him, and nobody got hit. So that was good.
Oh my gosh.
Then Dave Chappell was up doing Half Baked, so we had him for 2 shows. We had Mike Epps. So we were, every time there was, they used to do a lot of films up here, so they'd always go, well, what's to do in Toronto on Sunday? And they go, well, there's a black show at Yuck Yucks. They went, Yik Yaks, and they said, no, Yuck Yucks. So they would come. Robert Townsend, the director, he used to be a stand-up. He would come to the shows, and I go, you want to go on? He goes, no, but he's stand in the back and just hang, and he wound up hiring a couple of comics for his films.
No way.
After seeing them.
I understand you also had comics come up from Philadelphia, and they brought a special guest. At the time, I think they were calling him Little Kev.
Little Kev.
Who turned out to be?
Kevin Hart.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was great. He cried all the way back to Philadelphia after I paid him, because he found out about the exchange on the dollar. So I said, well, here's $110 Canadian. What's that in American? Oh, you'll see. You know?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Listen, is it true that the scene was that there was no harder crowd to bomb in front of than a Nubian show crowd? And is it true that you actually even would encourage the audience, boo if you don't like what you're seeing? Is that true?
Well, originally the booing was organic. And I guess maybe it was the influence of Showtime at the Apollo. But if there was one act he went on 3 times in a row, booed off 3 times in a row.
Wow.
So the next time he still wanted to do the show. I said, well, okay. So he hadn't even stepped foot on the stage when somebody yelled, "Oh no, not him again!" And they started booing him, right?
Yeah.
So, and then one time there was one regular in the back of the room. He called me my cell phone while somebody was being booed. I go, "Yes, get him off, get him off."
Oh my God.
But sometimes though, if somebody's getting booed, they'd say, "Well, Kenny, aren't you going to go get him?" I go, "No, I want the booing to build up a little bit."
Yeah.
It's not as bad as it could be. Or sometimes I would throw a towel onto the stage.
Come on, Kenny.
Like, you know, in a prize fight when a boxer's getting beaten?
Yeah.
Well, kind of like this corner man going, "Okay, that's enough. Fight's over. It's over."
And you bring up something interesting because I've heard a lot of comics say, listen, the black audience and the non-black audience are very different. And they say that the black audience is a little bit tougher on comedians. What's your opinion about that?
Well, I'd say it's almost like the difference between white churches and black churches. You're going to get a whole lot more emotion with it. Like, if you do well with a black crowd, what you get is the Scarborough gun salute. I know you were talking about that earlier, but you know, ha ha ha, compared to blip, 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 blip. After you get the finger guns, laughter and clapping just ain't the same. That's...
Okay, what are we going to ask? What's our last question? Jim Carrey, yes.
You lived in the same building with Jim Carrey. What was that like?
Well, there used to be a lot of comics living in the same building. So when I first came here, I knew a comic named Brian Beezer, and Jim Carrey lived upstairs from Beezer. So we'd have parties, and Carrey would come down, and one night he just grabbed all these heavy felt markers, and he just started doing all these caricatures on the wall. So now you pay like $3 or $4 grand for something, but it just graffitied this wall. So then, like, the next weekend, the guys bring some girls back, and they're like, "What child did you allow to destroy this apartment?" And my friend was upset, goes, "That was done by somebody with more talent than anybody you'll ever get to know." And I'm sitting there going, well, I want to move before we got to pay damages. So he was always up, always energetic, and a good drawer.
Yeah, did you know he was going to be the huge star that he is today?
I thought I was going to be the huge star that he is today.
Yes.
Gotcha. Well, Kenny, it's been a pleasure having you. Congratulations on the 30 years of the Nubian show.
Thank you very much.
I'll let everybody at home know you can stream People of Comedy on Crave right now. Don't move. We'll be right back.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.